have a plan. Have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this Degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so we can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Ah, my webcam fell over. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, welcome to this here November 20th Ask Me Anything Hangout Whiskey Wednesday with Degen. Tonight, I am joined by Chocolate Taints. I'm joined by Brendan Somewhere. I'm joined by Nate and also Agent J. Ooh, it looks like we've got some fucking hats going on today. Let me see if I've got a hat nearby. I do believe that I do. It's fucking crazy hat time. I love it. I love it. What the hell was I saying? Oh yeah, I'm joined by some fantastic folks and some fantastic people on this fantastic day. We're here to hang out. I'm drinking some Miller Extra Light because that's what was in the local, the local like grocery store when I went there earlier. Frickin' looks like Josh has got some whiskey. I'm sure Brendan's got something fancy, judging by that pink tie of his. Nate's generally got his Tito's or something, and Agent Jay's over there with his secret black juice. I'm going to presume that that's like Coke Zero or Diet Coke or something like that. For the folks at home who don't know who I am, my name is Will Stevenson. I'm a traveling iron worker. I roam about the United States building TV towers and broadcast towers. And in my off time, I talk crypto to assholes such as these fantastic gentlemen and also you assholes at home watching us now. Whether you guys are catching us live or on the replay, we fucking love you guys. And we're going to do chat shoutouts after I introduce our panel. So starting with my with the gentleman right here off to my camera right and real life left, we've got Chocolate Taints. Chocolate Taints his name is Josh. He's a guy who focuses on macroeconomics and stuff going off at the big picture scale, looks at like large scale investing and solving big problems for big people. We've also got Brendan over there. He also focuses on macroeconomics. Specifically, he likes talking about the federal funding rates and the SEC and what's going on up at the Fed with Jerome Powell. Agent J down at the bottom is our great value technical analyst. As you guys can see in his little description underneath there, he likes to do his charting. And matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, you guys were just over in our Telegram doing a super cool call. So that was awesome. We'll chat about that in a little bit. And then finally, we've also got Nate McGettit, our resident networker and feeler man extraordinaire. He goes out and he puts his little feelers in all the different communities out there. And he gets like an idea of what's going on over in Phantom, what's going on over in the Tang Gang, what's going on over in the I don't know, maybe even the Chainlink Marines. I don't know. But Nate likes to go out there and see what's going on everywhere. And yeah, so we're just a super happy, awesome crew ready to talk to you guys about what's going on. But before we get into that, gentlemen, what's new and exciting with you? And what are you sipping on? Starting with Mr. Josh, and then we'll just go around about clockwise.
What's going on, guys? Yeah, so I'm working on a little bit of Jack Honey tonight. That's what I got. So some Jack and Coke in the cup. Let me tell you guys something. All right, I was in New York City for the fights this past weekend for UFC 309. Absolutely phenomenal experience. All the fights were lights out. Had an absolute great time. And then to finish it all off, we got some great green candles going on this week so far. So it's been absolutely phenomenal. That's what I got working on. That's what I'm sipping on tonight. Bean, what are you working on, man?
Well, just been working on my cooking skills the last couple nights. Last night I made some chicken fajita tacos with some homemade black beans. And then tonight I stuck with the taco theme and I made some buffalo chicken tacos with some red onion, red pepper, avocado, and some homemade cilantro lime rice. And it was fire. And other than cooking, I'm watching these markets cook, baby, because we are going to the fucking moon. Ow! And I'm not sipping on anything, but I'm about to start with my best friend, Mr. John Jameson. I don't know if you guys know that, but Jameson's first name is John Jameson, named after the founder, of course. And I'm going to give a toast to Mr. John Jameson because he makes a fine whiskey. And that's what I got, Jay. That was a good call. Thank you for throwing that today. For the people that missed it, man, you got to get in our Telegram because how many calls did we have this week, Jay, between Telegram Tuesday, between the pre-whiskey Wednesday? I think you had another random call either on Monday or is it late last week? Can't remember, but so much going on in the markets and getting that real-time information from you is honestly more valuable than you can pay for anywhere.
Yeah, so last week we had quite a handful of calls in the Telegram. Like Nate is pointing to, scan the damn QR code and jump into the Telegram chat if you want to catch all the alpha that remains Telegram exclusive only. So a lot of stuff going on in the market. Bitcoin's basically making a new all-time high almost every single day now, right? So a lot of things to cover. We have predominantly focused on the RH tickers and the Pulse chain ecosystem, right? We went over the Hex dominance thesis, like what I think about that, why I think everything is going to bleed against Hex in the long term, the same way that everything bleeds against Bitcoin in the long term. And then today we did a little pregame show because we got a lot of requests from the people in the community like, hey, can we do a deep dive into the Pulse chain TA? And so I got kind of deep into the rabbit hole of Hex and the Hex dominance thesis. So that's, I followed that rabbit hole way too far down, just came out of it. And so I was like, you know what? We got about an hour before the Whiskey Wednesday show starts. So I was like, let's jump on here. We did TA for Pulse chain, for Pulse X, for incentive, and give everybody's favorite thing to do, which is what the moon math looks like for the rest of the year, heading into the post-halving year 2025 when things really start to get crazy. So that's what we went over today. And as far as like what I'm sipping on, you know me, man. The guys on the channel, they imbibe enough for me and Will, and so all I got is I got my Diet Coke, my Coke Zero, ready and waiting to go. But aside from that, man, same shit, different day, just enjoying the ride, trying to help out the community, position themselves as best as we possibly can. And yeah, man, just
Jay,
fun.
I lied to you, Jay, about Bitcoin breaking 95,000, but this time I'm serious. It broke 95,000. Look at that Bitstamp. Refresh it. We just broke 95K.
There you go, 95.4. Okay.
Excellent. Look at that, 95.4. Welcoming our good friend Nate into the show. Nate, that's your celebration for joining the Degen Roundtable talk show tonight. Bro, what's new and exciting with you other than Bitcoin hitting super, super high up?
Well, I just got in, and we'll get into this a little bit later on, but I did just get done moving around my farms and everything like that because, sometimes and to avoid a permanent loss, if something's going like this and the other one's really not moving, you might want to kind of like move those around a little bit because it no longer becomes worth it. So I moved around a bunch of farms today and actually repositioned a couple of them too based on what's happening in the market right now. And it's thank God for all the green candles because you can really tell what's really going to be skyrocketing versus what's going to be kind of lagging behind. And it's not like, nothing's going or all these are not going to have their day in the sun. Right. However, what's currently happening right now and how you can take advantage of what's currently not moving against Pulse versus what is moving against Pulse, you can stop the impermanent loss as well as continue to gain those rewards as much as possible, in which then you can get that dopamine hit once a week and be like, hey, I have free money over here. Let me go buy something now. Right. And of course, I usually just pour it right back into Pulse X because I love that coin so much. But yeah, aside from that, I had a talk with over on my channel with Axis Alive about his Axis and new coin Alive and how that whole ecosystem is going to be kind of coming together. Dude, like that guy has like galaxy brain because that whole protocol is complicated, but it is extremely helpful and it's very forward looking. So I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. We can get into that today as well about everything that I learned there. But yeah, it's going to be coming out here real soon, and yeah, just looking forward to it.
Excellent. Oh yeah, and shout out to Axis, by the way. For those of you guys that didn't catch the Pulse Chain Tour live, he spoke about his Axis and the Alive token there, and he went into super big detail about how he's going to use it in conjunction with communists. and in conjunction with native Hex staking to hopefully make Hex better and more awesome using his whole little thing with the solid index and all that stuff going on. But before we get into tonight's topics of conversations, I'm going to do a real quick couple of headline readings because I thought these things were funny, and then I'll also bring up the things we want to talk about. And after that, I will transition right on over into everyone's favorite part of the show, chat shoutouts. So before we get into the chat shoutouts, check this out. Three of the headlines that caught my eye earlier. Polish presidential candidate, oh man, Salomir Menson pledges to adopt a strategic Bitcoin reserve if elected. So we've already got some people doing the Bitcoin reserve. So not only did Trump like hint at it or like he teased the idea at the Bitcoin conference, but now Poland as well. So shout out to you guys, Poland.
Promised.
I know that's a very transitional.
Trump promised. So if he doesn't do it, we got to hold his feet to the fire.
He did promise then. That's excellent. Good for him. Good for him.
Hey, another thing also, Michael Saylor was on PBD this week talking exactly about that same thing, trying to come up with a Bitcoin reserve for the U.S.
Yeah.
So he's going to be strongly advocating that. That was up on PBD earlier this week.
You know what my favorite part of that podcast was, bro? When Saylor asked, was when PBD asked him, hey, man, what do you think about Scotty talking about how he met Satoshi back in 93? And Michael Saylor did that like, what the fuck did he just say?
Yo, that's all over the place. Charlie was just showing it on his memes earlier today on his show. He pulled that meme up as well. So yeah, I mean it's all over the place. But it's interesting how the conversation totally pivoted once they started talking about that, talking about Satoshi. But yeah, that's a side point I don't want to take away from what Will was talking about. But yeah, that was an absolutely great episode.
Yeah, so there's a fun little talking point is Poland and their strategic reserve. In addition to America's, another fun thing that's happening is McDonald's partners with Ethereum NFT series Doodles for a Good Morning Spread Joy event. So there we go. We've got McDonald's and an Ethereum NFT series, which I don't know much about the Doodles, but that's something fun. And then finally, and this goes into what you wanted to talk about later, Jay. But we'll get to it right after chat shoutouts. But Trump wants to meet privately with Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong to discuss personnel appointments in his administration. And this is Wall Street Journal. So we will get right back to that. That's what we're going to start with after chat shoutouts, Jay. So just hold your thought. And Mrs. Producer, if you don't mind, let's go ahead and shout out the folks at home who are here to hang out with us. It's time for motherfucking chat shoutouts. Starting with none other than Kenturian 54X, our standard issue first chatter. He came in today hot at 5:40 p.m. So a good 2 hours and 20 minutes before we went live today saying, what's up, Degens? What's up to you too, sir? It's good to see you, Mr. Kenturian 54X. Thank you for joining us here today. You are the winner chicken dinner. Next up after that is my dear brother, Samuel Stevenson, who says, hey to you too, Sam. I don't know if he said anything else after that. I'm in the starred chat, so this is what I see. But thank you, Sam. Good to see you. Welcome to the stream. I hope you're doing great. Oh, he's got his water tonight. I've got my water tonight, boys. That's what Sam's drinking. Sam's drinking water. Doing good. Hey, he's staying hydrated, staying fit. It's good for him. So you're a better man than I, Sam, and I congratulate you for it. Drinking that water, staying hydrated. Next up in chat shoutouts, we've got none other than Kay Hudson saying cheers. Cheers to you too, amigo. Welcome to the show. Glad that we could have you with us tonight. Kay Hudson, it's good to see you with your little black and white Pulse X logo. I fucking love it, broski. Next up, we've got C3 Works. Hey there, gents. This is shout out to Bill from the Actuator Protocol. C3 Works. This is Bill. He's part of the Actuator team. They made some really cool stuff that works on top of the Hex staking and HSI ecosystem. Nate did a deep dive with him as well. And I think he's hopped on Whiskey Wednesday here with us before. So shout out to you, Bill. Good to see you in the chat, broski. Welcome to the show. Oh, and it looks like he's also describing what he's drinking. Talisker Single Malt Scotch. That's probably fancy sounding.
That's a gentleman's drink.
Yeah. I know that Scotch is the fancy Scottish whiskey stuff is my understanding. So Good to see it. Good to see
whipping out the scotch for the stream tonight, so cheers to that.
Yeah, so Talisker's a little bit peaty. Great choice, by the way. It's not a bad scotch, but it's a little peaty for my palate. But Talisker makes a 10-year, and then they make 15, and I think they go up to a 30, something like that. Okay, hell yeah, good stuff. Brendan, I keep thinking you're gonna like pull out a bass and just like drop like a fucking smoking bass riff out of nowhere. You kind of look like a
Jazz or whatever.
you're just gonna jazz it out, man. It's gonna be good. But anyways, back into chat shoutouts. We've got Dace Northal saying that's my favorite scotch too. Shout out to Dace Northal of the Degen Roundtable. Good to see you, amigo. Good to see you. That's apparently his favorite whiskey as well. Next up in chat shoutouts, it looks like we got none other than Tam Tam saying, "What's up, fam? What's up to you, Tam? Good to see you. Welcome to the stream. #1 cheerleader in the Pulse Chain community and also in the cryptocurrency community as well. Good to see you, Tam. Thanks for joining us. After that, we've also got Crypto Stylist. Good morning to all my favorite Degens. Good morning to you too, Crypto Stylist. Over there, I believe you're in Asia or in London. I know that I keep getting it wrong. One of these times I'll figure it out though. So good to see you, Crypto Stylist. Good morning to you too. And welcome to the stream. Glad we could have you. After that, in chat shoutouts, we've got Moon-Pilled Rational Optics, a real life friend of mine. What's good, gentlemen? What's good to you too, sir? Salute, Slancha, Prost, Nazdrovia, and all those other good cheers noises to you, Mr. Moon-Pilled Rational Optics. At this rate, I'm about to go into work tomorrow and tell my boss to watch his mouth with a little frog emoji. Well, you can do as you please. But yeah, if you got a boss that's mouthing off to you, then perhaps it's time to put him in his place, especially with these prices going up. It's like, hey, I might not need to work for you anymore. So if you want me to like you, then you got to earn it now instead of just pay me for it. Next up,
give it about a year. Everyone will be able to do that.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, from Funkmaster Hex. Good evening. Good evening to you too. Mr. Funkmaster Hex, always coming in with his Julian-style drink, always ready to rock and roll. Good to see you, Funkmaster. And then finally, we'll finish up our chat shoutouts with none other than Chad Donnerschwanz. Hello to only fellow seed oil disrespecters. You're fucking A right. Man, it's going to be so cool with RFK hopping in there and everyone just like hating on all the stuff going on with McDonald's and their seed oils, and hopefully they'll go back to tallow and just all sorts of craziness. No more inflammation in America. We'll see what RFK is able to accomplish. What's your thought?
Can McDonald's just please make their French fries like they make them in Europe? They got like 16 ingredients here in the United States, and in Europe it's literally potatoes, oil, salt, and dextrose. 4 ingredients. In Canada is the same thing. Why is the United States the only place that they're allowed to have 16 ingredients in their food? And by the way, one of those ingredients called natural beef flavor, I'm pretty sure it's not natural because it has 8 ingredients. Okay, I'm pretty sure it's not natural. And second of all, that beef flavor has gluten in it. And you know what? I fucking hate gluten because it hates me.
Hell yeah. I'm not terribly fond. I love how they taste. And I don't know what kind of magical poison they put in it to make it taste good. Like, there's a lot of things in life that are fun to do that are terrible for you. But I think that McDonald's French fries is probably up there on the list of like the slow poison that's killing people, at least in America, at least in the States.
What's funny is it tastes the exact same everywhere. That's the worst part. It's like you don't need all those ingredients. Maybe it's cheaper. I don't know, but.
Uh-oh. Oh, it looks like I'm back. All right, sweet. But I came back at a good time because nobody was talking for once. This is excellent. All right, I missed whatever it was that you said, Bean. I'll have to catch it on the replay. But anyways, we're going to transition away from the food stuff and away from the chat shoutouts and move right on into the thing that we were talking about in the green room and that I mentioned when I was reading off headlines, and that's about Brian Armstrong. Trump allegedly wants to meet with Brian Armstrong to discuss possible appointments and things. And Jay, you had some thoughts on special recommendations from Mr. Chuck, you were saying. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, so those of you who were in the Telegram Tuesday call yesterday should be a bit familiar with this story, right? We went over the potential headlines. I was a little bit hesitant to mention it then because at that point it was still speculation, but as the day went on, a lot more news outlets were starting to put out that yes, it is confirmed that the Trump administration, or at least not him specifically, maybe him, who knows, but part of his team are planning to meet with Brian Armstrong, which, as you know, CEO of Coinbase, Mr. Ballylocks, the guy who looks like the assassin from Hitman, right? You don't want to fuck with that guy. So that has been confirmed. And then if I could actually go ahead and share my screen here, Mrs. Producer, this is actually on the heels of that news. So on X today, what we got was this tweet from Mr. Charles Hodgkinson's himself, right? Founder of ADA, part of the original dream team that founded Ethereum.
Can you zoom in a little bit, Jay?
Absolutely. How's this?
That is much better. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So, according to Charles, with respect to the idea of a crypto czar, so today it broke out that the White House is actually considering a kind of a special forces team that is specifically designed to tackle crypto-related issues, right? So this is what Charles is referring to here. So with respect to the idea of a crypto czar at the White House, I feel that the role needs to be filled with someone who is neutral, works with all the protocols, and has a deep understanding of why crypto is special, as well as what the U.S. government under Biden has done wrong. There's only one candidate that I think stands out in our industry for this role, and that is Brian Armstrong. Coinbase has grown into one of the pillars of crypto and has had to endure the unfair tactics of a government committed to regulation through enforcement. I know he could build a broad tent coalition to bring the industry together and help us get the government rallied behind real action during passing new laws. So this endorsement from Charles actually came as a very, very big surprise to me. In part because you guys already know that aside from Richard Hart, Charles and the ADA community, the Cardano community, are one of the few groups in crypto that really hold strong to one of the core tenets, right? The ethos of crypto, which is 100% decentralization, right? I think if you want to point at who is the most pro-decentralized in the entire crypto space, you could probably name Richard Hart and Charles at the very top of that list, right? So the fact that he came out with a glowing endorsement of basically the CEO of the most centralized entity, one of the most centralized entities in crypto, came as a strong surprise to me because he is Mr. Decentralized himself. Now, if I were to be an objective person analyzing this situation, you guys already know what my position on Coinbase is. I like Brian Armstrong, right? I like what he's done over at Coinbase, and I think Charles actually hits a lot of good points in this tweet, right? Because it is true that Brian and the folks over at Coinbase has been fairly neutral, right? They don't pick their favorites, right? They basically have all of the major L1s and L2s and their native assets available at Coinbase, right? That's what makes Coinbase so attractive as a centralized exchange, because you could buy Solana and send it natively to Phantom. You could buy Polygon Matic, you could send it natively to Matic. You could buy Ethereum and you can send it natively through your MetaMask. You could send it natively onto Base, right? So it's a very easy onboard for new crypto users, right? So he's right in that sense. Coinbase is fairly neutral and is willing to work and reach across the aisle, no matter who you are in crypto, right? Hopefully they do that with Richard Hart as well. They obviously have a very deep understanding of our crypto is special, right? They are the largest U.S. centralized exchange when Binance got pushed out, right? And they certainly are no strangers to what the Biden administration, in particular, the Biden administration who rallied behind Gary Gensler, right? They are very intimate with what that administration and what the SEC has done in their war against crypto, right? Through that regulation of enforcement. So when Charles says that there isn't anybody else that he could think of that could potentially lead the special forces team when it comes to the White House appointments, then I would also agree that that's Brian Armstrong. But I'm just a little bit surprised. I guarantee you right now that people in the ADA community probably saw this one coming, did not see this coming, because this is from left field from Mr. Decentralized himself. But I could not agree more with his objective stance on the analysis, right? So I want to get everybody's opinion on this. If you were to pick somebody to head the special forces team in the White House to address the crypto-related issues specifically, do you think Brian Armstrong is one of the best, if not the best candidate for that choice? Or do you guys have somebody else in mind?
Oh, for sure. I personally think that Brian, like, just off the top of my head, that would be my first choice, is have Brian Armstrong, because like Coinbase is super big. He's stuck around. He's fought the beast. He's remained pretty damn objective and neutral. I think he was part of some Bitcoin projects or something early on, but he's not like a hated character. You know, he's a very middle of the road kind of milk toast sort of thing. So he's not going to have like crazy amounts of opposition or anything. I think from just like a personality perspective, he'd be an excellent choice. I don't know a whole lot about his technical acumen, but I figure since he's running Coinbase, and Coinbase is doing pretty damn well and has done pretty well, and they've not found themselves in like any seats of any like particular hot seats or anything, I think it'd be an excellent choice. So that's my 2 cents. What about you guys?
Well, one thing that the SEC did sue him a couple of times, right? And basically their lawyers went in and their lawyers went in was like, you have no idea what you're talking about, and who here doesn't want decentralization? And nobody raised their hands. It was like, yeah. So I think it's a good choice, but hear me out. I got another suggestion. CZ.
That would be such a that would be a spit in the face of Gary and Biden. If Trump would like, let's get Uncle CZ back here.
Nate, I was literally going to say the same thing. You literally took the words right out of my mouth. Give me CZ, baby. We need Agent Jay's daddy in the house.
That's my uncle, man. That's my uncle.
Sorry.
What are you talking about? My uncle.
I thought he wasn't an American citizen. I thought he was like Canadian or something.
He's Canadian.
He's Canadian.
Okay. Can they serve in a cabinet?
I mean, Elon Musk technically is, and he's from Africa.
But he's a citizen.
Oh, shit.
Nobody Elon's a citizen.
Fucking A.
Elon's a citizen.
Elon Musk is an African American.
He is, yeah, from South Africa. You know that there's 3 capitals in South Africa? I don't know if you guys know that. It's one of the few countries that actually have 3 capitals, 1 capital for each part of the government. Nonetheless, I digress.
Huh.
So look, I was joking about CZ. He's not American, but that would be hilarious. One of the things that I've been thinking about is Richard Hart. No, I'm kidding. Zenith from the Degen Roundtable. Okay, he would be great. That'd be my first choice. But since those guys aren't happening, look, the biggest thing, and I think the point that Charles makes that's the most important, is that you need someone that isn't there to pump one specific coin or one specific bag. And that's where somebody like the head of Coinbase, where, you know, yes, they have base. Yes, they have some of their own things that they've built out. They're really trying to get everybody involved. Now, I will say, Coinbase, shout out to you. While we're giving you some props, I'm also going to say you got to list some Hex, kid. Okay? List Hex on Coinbase. You have it. You can buy it on Coinbase wallet. Why not on your main exchange? Okay?
Yeah.
So that's that. But nonetheless, I think he wouldn't be a bad choice. How many other options do we have that could be somewhat neutral in the crypto sphere? Most people own a coin or run a coin or pack their bags and here, there, and everywhere. And so there is a little bit of worry that if you're not neutral, you may create laws that are more beneficial to your bags. And so we need someone that is going to be neutral. I think that he can be neutral. Again, he's been targeted unfairly by the government. And so I think that he should at least look. I actually think there should be more than one person. I think there should be at least 3 people.
No,
okay,
it is the team. It is going to be a team. Being Charles just basically threw
he should be the head of it
as the one who will lead it.
Yeah. I want a 3-headed monster to lead the team, and then I kind of want an agreement. I don't want just a single person running it because again, that can lead in. So I want this team to be a little bit more decentralized, which is actually what we did here in the Degen Roundtable. There's some good things about that, and there's some bad things about that. Okay. And so understanding both sides of that coin, I just want multiple people involved that all have equal say. If he's going to put that team together and it's a neutral team, fine, so be it. But we need something that's neutral, and we need a good core group of people to do that. Josh, what are you going to say?
Do you guys know where this could easily fall within the administration? The
No,
Department of Government Efficiency.
Under the Fed.
Think about it. Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy. Think about that.
Ooh.
Think about government efficiency adopting Bitcoin because it makes it more efficient. That would be my number one pick. Would be Vivek. That would be mine.
That's
but
a good
obviously, you know, he's in another role right now. But I could easily see a focus on cryptocurrency coming from Elon and Vivek in that sort of role. It could easily be adopted. And I want to make a comment here. I don't want to take away from the question that you asked, Jay, but I want everyone to just pause real quick and think about where we are. We have an incoming presidential administration that's discussing having a cryptocurrency czar. Think
cool?
of where we are right now and think of the adoption and how quick of a time it's come around. And you know, it's interesting because we always talked about in the past how, look, you're going to understand that when everyone starts talking about Bitcoin, that might be a cycle top indicator. That might not be the case moving forward, especially if we have a presidential administration that is so headstrong on cryptocurrency. We could have mainstream media picking up on this a lot sooner. We have investor FOMO going on as we speak right now. This is straight investor FOMO that we have coming in right now. So the old days when we, you know, and even as recent as, you know, when I was streaming regularly about 6 to 8 months ago, we were talking about, look, when your mailman's talking about cryptocurrency, that might be a cycle top indicator. It might not be that way anymore, especially when you have an administration coming in that's so headstrong around cryptocurrency. Because if that's going to be a strong topic of debate, then that's going to meet the mainstream media. Mainstream media is going to be talking about that a lot. So those are just some thoughts that I had. I didn't, like I said, Jay, I didn't mean to take away from the question that you had, but that sort of popped into my head right there.
No, it ties in wonderfully to it, right? Because we know that yes, there is talks about creating that special forces team, but we know that within Trump's cabinet, even though they might not be nominated to head that team because their talents are being used elsewhere, we know that on a broad picture perspective, the umbrella that basically encompasses the entirety of Trump's administration has a ton of pro-crypto people, right? So he can pick and choose from there to create that team, or you could go ahead and pull some talents from outside who are maybe a little bit more intimate with what's going on in the industry because they're knee deep in it, right? Which is why I think Charles was arguing for Brian Armstrong. I think Brian is also a good pick because look, we've spoken about this a few times in the past, right? Coinbase is based, I think right now they're still based in California. How long that stays is yet to be determined. But during the height of COVID, when everybody started politicizing almost every single avenue of life, Brian Armstrong came out with a very strong letter to everybody in the Silicon Valley, right? And he said, Coinbase will remain steadfast to our mission. And that is to provide financial technology solutions, in particular crypto, to our customers. We are not going to get involved with politics. We're not going to get involved with the culture war. We will remain steadfast in our mission, and that is to provide these services to our customers. And he got a lot of fucking heat, right? But he did not fold. And so say what you want about Coinbase being a centralized entity, but at the very minimum, you can trust that with a track record like Brian Armstrong, he's not going to fucking politicize crypto, right? So it's just like that's another feather in the cap for him. So
and look,
go ahead, Bean.
Jay, great points. Josh, great points. We don't expect the government to participate in decentralized cryptocurrencies, right? Like, I don't really see them buying Hex, right? Like, we're in DeFi in areas that are outside the realm of governance in a sense. And so, yes, I want the government to regulate crypto in a fair way that doesn't impact or tread upon my rights to participate in decentralized financial applications, to, keep my transactions private, to keep my wallet private. Those are the regulations that I want to see that allows me to continue to participate in ways that allow me, to be decentralized. And so I don't expect the government to create this decentralized platform. That's not what governments do, right? But we have an administration that doesn't want to be what the government has been for the last 50 years. At least that's what they tell us, right? And until they actually make those decisions until we actually see it happening, I'm always going to have my reservations about politicians and government. But this seems to be going in a way that it hasn't recently. And so when we're talking about regulation, regulate it to the point where it's safe, but I'm allowed to use it in the way that I want to use it, and you don't have to track me, okay? Allow me to do what I want to do. That's the bottom line. That's what I'm hoping for.
So, something else to think about, and Brendan, I want to talk to you real quick, and then I want to talk to the panel, and then I'm going to make a comment for the audience. Brendan, do you remember when we were sitting in the bar in Washington, D.C., and we started talking about the perfect storm theory? And then we brought it to the team. And Nate, Jay, Will, do you remember when we started to really put stuff together, and we started to talk more about it? One thing that we never considered was that we would have Donald Trump reelected and we would have a cryptocurrency-friendly administration coming in. And if there's anything that really hammers home how strong the perfect storm theory could get, it's the fact that we're living in it right now with that tweet in and of itself. That we have a cryptocurrency czar with the incoming administration that is going to be as crypto friendly as possible because they get it and they see it and they understand it. And it's just, we've been talking perfect storm theory since this channel was founded. It was episode 3, episode 4 that we started covering it. Was it 4, Nate? I think was it 4 or was it was 3? Okay, gotcha. Yeah, episode 3. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we never imagined this. And I mean, this is just priming it up for that. And it's just going to be so exciting to see.
Yeah. It's funny. If people go back and watch, we've done 2 shows on perfect storm theory. And I think it's important for us to do a third one because it's nice to see what blocks are falling into place from our predictions. Here's a hint, all of them and then some. But we did talk about back then, we talked about wanting, proper crypto regulation. We were saying, hey, if it doesn't stifle innovation, it doesn't stifle crypto, that's a win. Now we're talking about going the opposite way, having not just like crypto friendly regulation, but pro crypto regulation from the government. And that is something that we did not anticipate. That is something that we did not expect. And how much the sentiment has changed in crypto in the last 6 months, 12 months, and since 18 months ago when we started that perfect storm theory. We were the first ones, I think, to say that Bitcoin could hit 200,000 this cycle.
By month. We were the first one by
literally
month.
Was it January 2023 when we had that episode, something like that?
No, it was earlier. It was not January 2023. Wait, we started in March.
It would have been spring or summer of 2023. Spring or summer of 23.
Okay, maybe April. Yeah, maybe April. But nonetheless, April or May. Nonetheless, we talked about a lot of potential things, and those things are falling into place. But first of all, pro-government regulation, pro-crypto government regulation, and strategic Bitcoin reserves. Like, these are things that we didn't even have on our bingo card, that we didn't even have on our wish list. And so it's kind of blown our expectations out of the water. And that's why our prior 100 to maybe 150 Bitcoin price seems like a really low estimate. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit more. But yeah, perfect storm theory is coming together great.
Hey, Will, can we bring up Sam's point here? Because I think it's pretty directed at the conversation. So he says, is the point of government stepping in to defend crypto and defend decentralization? He says it sounds kind of centralized to me. And I would have to agree with Sam there, right? Because we are relying on basically a centralized entity to create the regulations for us. But we also have to realize, I speak to people about this all the time, because that sentiment is shared across a lot of folks within the industry, Sam, who want to maintain the ethos, right, of crypto, which is like, just leave us the fuck alone, right? That complete sovereign individuality that is one of the core foundations of crypto. But the reality is, the unfortunate reality is, as this technology gets adopted by nation states, by sovereign entities, by the entire world, the inevitable result is that you are going to have these centralized entities like the US government. They're going to want in on the action, right? Because if Bitcoin is the final frontier of finance and will usurp the US dollar as the reserve currency, then one, nations aren't going to just take that lying down. And those that do accept it are certainly going to want to get their hands in the pot, right? It is the inevitable result of something getting mass adoption. You're going to get centralized entities, the people that you don't like, in on the game. And it's either you adapt to the situation and you live with it, or you fight it, as some people are doing, right? But I think that's a losing battle. I think it's better to work with these folks, right? I think that's why even somebody like Charles, like we mentioned, right? He's one of he's decentralized me basically, right? It's Charles. That's one of the core tenets of the Cardano Foundation. But even he has, given his endorsement for Brian Armstrong, and that tells you a lot. Right, the willingness of people to work across the aisle, whether you're somebody who runs a centralized exchange like Coinbase, or you're somebody like Charles who maintains a strong ethos of decentralization, right, of 100% complete sovereignty and responsibility. Somebody like Richard Hart as well. We're gonna have to work together, because if we don't, if we maintain this stance of we're going to remain disparate entities and we're just gonna tell you to leave us the hell alone, then the people who have money and power are going to get in the space regardless, and they will take over, right? And so we might as well get people that we like and we trust into positions of power, and so that they can be a hedge against the nature of government to move towards centralization, right? It's basically a hedge. You put somebody like Brian Armstrong there, he's like, all right, guys, you're creeping too close into wanting to create a central bank digital currency. Our guys aren't going to like that. That's not going to resonate with them. Take a few steps back, right? It's going to be a hedge. That's all it is. But the inevitability is, as this technology gets adopted worldwide, it's going to happen, right? It's inevitable. It's like Thanos, right? It's inevitable.
Just to add on a little bit, Jay, real quick. You do need some regulation, right? Otherwise, it's every man for himself. I want everybody exactly. I want everyone to think back to how America was originally founded, or USA, I should say, was originally founded. It was a bunch of people who hated government, and so they skipped across the pond to then decentralize themselves and create a government, but a government that says, hey, you guys can basically do whatever you want. There's just a couple of rules to follow. Okay. And that slowly turned into what it is now, obviously. And that's the scary part. However, this seems to always be a cycle of humans, right? Where, crypto starts off as, hey, we're trying to get out of the monetary system to be able to win. And then decentralized natures of just how it works, right? And then from there, it starts getting into, well, okay, we can't be completely decentralized because too many people are getting hurt. So we need some kind of government, right, to come in, governing rules to come in. And we start governing, ourselves. But then from there, it's like, okay, well, then some people are winning, some people are not. It's usually bigger whales that are winning at that point, or people who actually have that technical knowledge, right? Then from there, it's like, okay, well, we need a little bit of a more broad stroke. Everybody needs to fall under these types of rules. And you kind of see how it just continues on, right? It's always a cycle that humans have always been just kind of this way in general.
One of the one of the things that you brought up there, Nate, something I want to touch on, is you're talking about the wealthy people are going to be more powerful. You get that in any scenario, with or without government regulation, is the people with the power will have the most power, the wealthy people aren't going to stop being more powerful than the not wealthy people, simply because government steps in the way. What the point of the government is, or what it ought to be in a perfect scenario, is an entity that limits a person stepping on another person's opportunity or safety or prosperity or something like that. It's basically just the parent that steps in to stop the kids from bullying each other, even if one kid's a lot bigger than the other one. That's what the government's supposed to be, a group that stops the people that are going to abuse their position to make other people feel bad or something. In a perfect world, that's what it would be. So am curious to see what would happen in the world of sovereignty with cryptocurrency, where just pretty much everyone has all of the opportunities to do stuff. I don't think that there's a need for a ton of regulation. I do like the Wild West, and I am like, I recognize the Wild West times of crypto are probably coming to an end, and I, um, I lament it a little bit, but I think that it kind of harkens back a little bit to what Tim Top was saying earlier. Let me see if I can find the thing that he did. Mrs. Producer, at about 39 after the top of the hour, Tim Top had a comment about expecting the government and there we are. I expect the government and their puppets to sell us a line of bullshit, usher in CBDCs and a carbon credit economy they have planned out for years in order to fleece everyone out of their retirement. This is also what I expected, Tin Top, and I responded to it. I kind of figured that the government would do all of this crazy stuff and it'd be painful. But like right now, it seems like they're working, at least not necessarily in lockstep with our goals, but they're not beating us up anymore. And so like I'm hesitant to switch my mindset to like, oh, they're being nice to us, or something nice is going to happen. Like it could just be the honey that comes before the honey that comes before the like the they hit you over the head with a baseball bat or something, or like the steak that you toss into the hole that you've dug into the ground for like your sick dog or something before you blow his brains out or whatever. But like just the I did not expect for the government to be nice to us and throw us bones and for good things to happen. I basically was just like pessimistic in my viewpoint the entire way. And so I'm curious to see where this leads us and to see what goes on. And it'd be cool if Brian was appointed. It would also be cool if CZ was appointed, or Vivek, man. Like these are all excellent options. And like I'm just happy to see excellent options are on the table. And so that's where I'm sitting right now with all this stuff, Jay, to answer your question. Anyone got any final thoughts on this?
Yeah, at the very minimum, Will, we know that the CBDCs are not going to come within the next 4 years, right? Not under Trump, because the Bitcoin community remembers well. And they remember the promises that Trump made during his appearance at the Bitcoin Nashville event this year, right? Freeing Ross, no creation of central bank digital currencies, keeping his promises for a Bitcoin reserve. So at the very minimum, those things, I think we can be very confident that he's going to keep those promises, because if he does not, he will certainly hear it from all of us in crypto Twitter and the community. So we can be confident that the next 4 years we're not going to get any significant headwind from that administration. Especially if we keep the House and the Senate during midterms in 2 years.
Yeah, and let's not forget, he has a very pro-crypto vice president. I wouldn't call Trump, prior to this past 6 months, he wasn't necessarily the biggest pro-crypto person. We've talked about it a bunch, right? Like, yeah, he launched some NFTs, but he was like, I don't know what this is. But, he's slowly warmed up to it, and warmed up to it enough that he's actually putting people in place around him that are very, very pro-crypto. J.D. Vance, Vivek Ramaswamy, even Elon Musk, we know is somewhat pro-crypto. And so if you're worried about him, usually you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. Yeah. And he's surrounding himself with people that are very pro-crypto. And that, for me, does bode well. And that does give me confidence that we're going to see some good things over the next year, 2 years, 4 years.
So pro-crypto, in fact, Bean, that over the last 24 hours, it was announced that the Trump media company is in talks to buying the crypto exchange firm Backed. I don't know if you guys have heard that, but that was circulating around crypto Twitter over the last 24 hours. So
crazy.
Mm-hmm.
We also got an outstanding comment here from C3 Works on the subject of what we're talking about, where he's speaking about Reagan's landslide victory in 1980 up through 1988. It set back the globalist agenda, so think Henry Kissinger for a generation. We could be seeing that here too with Trump's administration. So yes, Henry Kissinger is a big part of the reason why American jobs of like manufacturing and stuff left the United States and went over to Indonesia, went over to China, went over to those other third world countries, and we stopped making a lot of products here in the in the United States. I'm not incredibly familiar with what happened during Reagan's administration. But yeah, I would like if it's anything similar to what's happening with Trump now, then I would be happy to welcome bright prospects and good news and things going on in the near future. And speaking of bright prospects and thinking of good news, any final thoughts, gentlemen? Because if not, I'm going to do a quick round of chat shoutouts, and we will open up the StreamYard for the folks at home because we are nearing the top of the hour mark. Anything on this topic before we go? All righty.
You are well within your right to be cautiously optimistic, though, Will. Don't think you're wrong for that, everybody.
Oh yeah.
To be cautious, it's absolutely reasonable to be cautious, especially anything that ever involves the government. So, absolutely.
That's why I'm cautious when I talk to you.
Nope. We're all the government over here at the Degen Roundtable. Spoiler alert, guys, we're all Satoshi Nakamoto, and we're all on Trump's cabinet. So there you go. We've all been appointed, and we're all going to be having a good time and everything once we get up in there. But speaking of everyone having a good time and people being appointed, we're going to appoint the members of our chat shoutouts, or we're going to appoint the members of our audience to the promotional rank of chat shoutouts, where we call out, man, I totally bombed my thing. We're going to do chat shoutouts, guys. We're going to call out everyone's chats and see what's going off. So starting off, Miss Producer with Tin Top. What's up, Hexkins? What's up to you too, sir? Good to see you, Tin Top. That was an excellent comment you had earlier that got me into my rant about being pessimistic or cautiously optimistic. So good to see you, broski. Next up, we've got Crypto Compassion. Hey, everyone. Hey to you too, Mr. Crypto Compassion. Shout out to you. By the way, Zenith and I were on Crypto Compassion's stream earlier. We were hanging out with AJ and with Compassion over there on the King Pooey team and stuff. Vets wasn't able to make it, but we had a great time over there. We streamed for about an hour with them. Just basically talked the generic, the history of the Degen Roundtable and what we do over here and some of the stuff that we do. Shout out to those guys. They're super awesome, and their show was very fun. Good to see you, Mr. Crypto Compassion. Next up in chat shout outs, we've got Paul Sachs. You boys dressed for New Year's Eve party. Happy Bitcoin all-time high day. There's going to be a lot of those in the near future, Mr. Paul, would be my gamble. If I was a betting man, I would gamble that we're going to have a lot of new Bitcoin all-time highs. And good to see you, broski. This might be what I wear for Christmas and New Year's. We'll see. Uh-oh, my hat fell off. All right, next up in chat shoutouts, we've got Niles Jenkins. Well, if it isn't our favorite bundle of Grundle with the taint that'll make you faint, we've got Chocolate Taint and Niles coming in with the epic raps and poetry. It's good to see you, Niles, just like it's good to see Chocolate Taint. Glad we could have you with us. And yes, we are very happy to have Josh back, found some free time, and is able to join us more often. So life is good. Next up in chat shoutouts, we've got Conspiracy Crypto. Shout out to Ramon Carrillo, our good friend. He's been on Nate's show. He's been on the Degen Roundtable. I've been on his show. I believe Nate's been on his show as well. Super cool, awesome guy, real life friend of mine. Good to see you, Ramon. What is up to you too, sir? Next up in chat shoutouts, we've got none other than Luna C Point with the hey gang. Hey, what's going on with you too, Luna? Good to see you. Welcome to the chat. Glad that you could make it tonight. And then after Luna, we've got Hex Monkey. Hey, gang, great to see you all, Degens. Shout out to Hex Monkey. He's part of the glue that keeps all of the Hexkins together. Nothing but positivity from this guy, going to almost every meetup that I can think of. Shout out to you, Hex Monkey, wherever you are right now. I fucking love seeing you, bro. Whenever we go to IRLs or whenever you're hopping in the comments, just nothing but positivity. You are a great boon to the Pulse Chain and Hex ecosystem. And I do believe that covers it for the chat shoutouts, and we are now caught up. So, Mr. Producer, if you would be so kind as to go ahead and drop that StreamYard link into the chats and also into the Telegram. For the folks at home, if you guys want to hop on up here into the Bar Hopper area and shoot the shit with us tonight and tell us what's new and exciting with you and some of the thoughts of the things that we've been talking about, then feel free to click on over into the link. We just ask that before we put you on that you show a camera or you give us some sort of show of good face, so that way we know that you're not some scammer or you're not hanging your bits about and trying to get us banned off of YouTube or anything. But yeah, we would love to have you guys hop on in here and chit chat and shoot the shit, introduce yourself, and talk to the gang. And we can talk about anything. We can talk about lots of things. But yeah, so there is the link feel free to join us. And while we wait for people to join us, Nate, I want to toss the conversation over your direction. You had mentioned earlier in the show talking about coin pairings and farming and things of that nature. For the folks at home who don't know anything about liquidity or don't know anything about farming, can you give them a quick, brief explanation about farming and liquidity pairing, and then also what it is that you are doing as of these this relevant or recent price action?
Okay, so real quick, I'll try and keep it super short. So long story short, right? TLDR. So the way that you're able to like pull coins and swap coins around and just all the actions that we usually make in crypto, it has to do with liquidity pools. So if you throw your coins into these liquidity pools as an incentive to get people to actually do that for you, for these protocols that need it, right? What they'll do is they'll give you usually some kind of incentive, right? Which is going to be well, it's usually some kind of incentive coin, right? In this particular case, you know, you could go ahead and you can, like in 9-inch, right? You can go ahead and say that it's BBC, right? And the reason why I'm going that direction is because I had a lot of pools over there. So with these pools and the pairings that I had with them, oftentimes you have this issue that's called impermanent loss, where, you know, if both coins went up like this, right? Then it's like, okay, as soon as you go to pull them out, you're pulling out the same amount of coins you put in. But the problem with impermanent loss is that if one coin does this, then you're ultimately selling that coin into this coin down here, right? Which means you have less of that coin and it's outperforming. And now you've lost money in that amount of coins, right? And the incentive that you got out of it, if you bought right back into this coin or right back into this one, right? Then it's like, okay, well, maybe it's not worth it. Maybe instead you only bought up with the incentive token that you got this much rather than this much.
Yep.
So that's impermanent loss. Now with that, you want to go and you want to check out what is running against, and I'm going to use an example here as like say Pulse, right? What's running against Pulse right now? So one of the things that I had PDI and Pulse. Okay. However, PDI is currently, from when I put that liquidity pair in there and put it into the farm to then, you know, farm out the incentive token, which is BBC. When I put that in there, if I look at to where it's running now, it's basically at like a 10x, right? And I don't think I'm gaining enough BBC to make that worth it anymore. So instead, what I did was I pulled it out, and then I actually used that Pulse to instead go with something that was actually, I think it's Tetra, if I believe. So yeah, it was Tetra. Tetra is actually kind of running with Pulse right now, right? And so I actually put that into a different pool. And so in moving those tokens around, I can continue to get rewards, right? Rather than losing more PDI, which I don't want to lose, by the way. I did the same sort of deal when it came to like Hex and Pulse. I pulled that one too, because I would rather keep more Hex rather than buying more Pulse with the Hex ultimately. So yeah, TLDR, I moved a lot of these farms around. There's a lot of really lucrative farms that you can go find that are still good tokens that will have their day in the sun, right? They will pop off. Right now, they're not doing it though, right? So it's in these times when they're not popping off yet that you actually want to be farming them, because that's going to give you literally just a free paycheck, okay? And I like that dopamine hit every single week that I go into my farms and I pull out all of my tokens, you know? So yeah, then and the cool thing about that too is when you create a paycheck and you pull out your tokens, you're like, cool, I got free money, right? What am I going to go do with it? You can go buy more coins. And I have bought a few meme coins that are doing pretty good right now. But then I've also, I usually end up throwing it right back in the Pulse X. It's my favorite one. I love that buy and burn. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I have a little bit thrown away for another token that's coming out, which is Alive. So yeah, looking forward to it.
So you're moving the money around as the prices change to maintain solid ratios and not experience too much coin loss in respect to the other ones. That's
exactly.
to avoid impermanent loss, basically. Will, right? So what Nate did was he moved his pools from pairs that are moving far and away from each other into pairs that are moving in the same direction, right? In this case, they're going up, and like relatively speaking, they're going up in the same ratios. That way, he's not experiencing the impermanent loss that you would if he stayed in the pool, like he mentioned, right? He's in the PDI PDI. Was it PDI and what else, Nate? Pulse chain?
PDI and Pulse. Yep.
Yep.
PDI and Pulse. And here's the funny thing. So I actually kept my PDI and wrapped or PWBTC. Jesus, mouthful, right? I actually kept that one though, because that one's right. That one's actually pretty. It's doing pretty good. You know, when you have a little bit kind of doing this, that's just fine. Or if it's like slowly going up like that, right? That's just fine too. The rewards that you're getting are still actually like worth it, right? Versus like when you look at something that 10x's versus it, it's like, oh, okay, I'm losing way too many coins here. That is not worth it at all.
Yeah. As a general rule of thumb, you want to stay in pools that have a decent yield, right? The APY, decent APY, but very stable assets, right? Because if you go into pools that are very volatile against each other, you get a lot more yield, but you also risk the impermanent loss, right? Especially if you're in pools where the other token that you've got in the pair is something that you don't want to have more of, right? So, like for example, the Pulse X Pulse Chain pair, like they're gonna run with each other no matter what. And I mean, in some cases, like let's say one runs harder against the other. For the people that hold the core 4, they don't really care. If they end up with more Pulse X, maybe they end up with more Pulse Chain. At the end of the day, they're not going to care. So they can stay within that pool and not really bother with the impermanent loss. But if you're in a pool like Nate said, right, in PDI that goes 10x against Pulse Chain, and you don't want to lose too much more of your PDI, then you pull out and you redistribute those assets like Nate did, right?
Yeah, there's one other thing that you can do. If you don't put all of your bags into the farms, like for example, if you have Pulse and Ink or something to that extent, and Ink takes off, if you're watching it regularly, daily, you can always switch some Ink back into Pulse or Pulse back into Ink as those ratios go up. So you're not garnering as much impermanent loss because you're paying attention to it and you're keeping some of those liquid coins, and you're trading those liquid coins for whatever's running harder or vice versa. And that does allow you to reduce your impermanent loss, but you kind of have to know what you're doing a little bit. If you don't know what you're doing a little bit, then that's a bit more challenging. It's just good to be in safer pools. But there are multiple ways that you can cut down on that permanent loss. As long as it's not, running 10, 20x in a day, you're not going to be too bad.
Yeah, that'd be wild. And one last thing before we introduce our special guests here. So one thing that you want to watch out for is when you get to that point of the banana zone of the bull market, that's when you really need to be cautious. And if you don't have a lot of time like me, it's better just to pull, hold, and just watch the prices go up rather than risk that impermanent loss.
Yeah.
You saying you should pull out?
Will, can we bring up Luna's comment real quick? She asks, what do you think about the XUSD? Luna, in general, during bull markets, right, it's okay to be in, I'm assuming this is a stable coin. The general rule of thumb, in very calm waters, right, when nothing is really moving, you're free and clear to be in stable farms. However, in bull markets, you do not want to be in stable farms unless you're trying to dollar cost average out of the other asset in that farm, right? Like let's say, for example, Pulse Chain XUSD. Because when things start to run really heavy, what that pool is going to do is it will dollar cost average you out of your Pulse Chain into the stable coin. And so you're still going to make a profit regardless when things start to run to the upside, but you might end up running out of Pulse at a 2 or 3x and you miss the 10, the 20, the 50x during the latter half of 2025. So you generally want to stay out of stable pools when price is running heavily to the upside. To the downside, it's the reverse, right? It's a way for you to dollar cost average into an asset. But in general, you want to be in stablecoin pools when things are calm and not moving crazily, right? So that's what that's my answer to your question, right? I would not be in stable pool farms right now. The only stable pool farms you should be in right now is if there are 2 pairs of stables, right? Like Richard Hart just recently opened up the stable farms, right? That's really the only stable pairs you should be in if you're pairing 2 stables together. So that's my answer.
If you're even holding stables, like who's holding stables right now? We're freaking bull market, bro. We're up. If you're holding stables, you're not gonna make it.
This is what I love about our team. You can be extremely hands-on like Nate. You could be mediocre like Brendan is, or you could be like me. Like all I've done. No, hear me out though. All I've done is hit the buy button since February. That's it. That's all I've done. I've expended every last bit of my dry powder. I just made my last ETH purchase this afternoon, and that's all I've done. I've hit the buy button. That's all. I've made 4 or 5 transactions, 6 transactions since the fall of 2022. But that's what's great about our team is you got very active people that are swapping things in and out, that are exchanging rewards and stuff like that. And then you got some more conservative folks, especially like me. I think I'm probably the most conservative. Well, me and Jay probably. But yeah, as far as just like buying and holding, man, like that's it. The less moves I make, the better. That works for me. So
on the subject,
wrecked making moves. Sorry, Will, go ahead.
I was just going to say, on the subject of well-roundedness, we've got 2 fantastic guests that we're going to add up. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, please welcome to the stage C3. We've got Bill from C3 Actuator, and we've also got Frank, good old Mr. Frank Conversations. I love to see it. Gentlemen, what is new and exciting with you? And there might be folks at home in the audience who don't know who you are. So starting with Bill, can you give yourself a brief introduction and talk about what you do, and then tell us what's going on? And if you happen to be sipping anything fancy, let us know and let the folks at home know. What's going on, Bill?
You bet. Thanks, and appreciate being here, Will, and all the rest of you guys. It's great to be a part of your program. Love what you guys do. So I'm C3 Works. I go by Bill. I'm in a lot of different places. Hi, Frank. How you doing? And get around quite a bit. I'm a co-founder of Actuator Protocol, which some have known. We're trying to make a splash here. We've been out for about a month. We worked on it for several years before we released it, but it's fully completed and running great. Very excited. In fact, I'll drop a couple pieces of alpha here. One is that we're going to be providing a sponsorship to the Pulse Chain Tour Conference 369 for March. So we're going to be supporting what they do. We'll be out there. We'll be active in it. Looking forward to all that. Just finished with their team here tonight. So that's one thing. For those that don't know me, I personally have a fairly extensive professional background in TradFi. Got tired of that by about 2017. Said I think I want to be part of the solution, not the problem, and decided to go full-time into crypto. I've been in crypto since about 2013, 14 or so. Seen a lot of cycles, been a day one hexagon, pulsicon sacrifices, PulseX sacrifices, Hedron, Icosa, you name it, adoption amplifier, big payday, the whole deal. So we built what we did to be able to meet some needs that we thought would help the Hex community grow. And we're starting to find some others agree. So we just want to get that word out and appreciate that. In fact, after we get a second here in a minute, I'll be happy to give you a couple of Degen ideas that we've just discovered. But let's
I like Degen ideas
first.
Yes, we will launch into that after we introduce Frank White. Speaking of Frank, or excuse me, not Frank White, the Frank Conversations. I don't know if you're Frank White. There's a lot of Franks in the Hex community. So forgive me if I chose the wrong one, but Frank, it's good to see you, amigo. For the folks at home, apparently including myself, can you give yourself a brief introduction and tell everyone who you are, what it is that you do, and what's new and exciting with you? And also, if you happen to be drinking anything fun and fancy, like my very classy Miller Extra Lights here.
Well, first things first, I had a Manhattan.
Ooh.
I maybe had 2 Manhattans.
Ooh, I love Manhattans.
All right, I had 2 Manhattans. A perfect Manhattan. So, sweet vermouth, dry vermouth with some, what do you call it? Maker's Mark.
No cherries?
It's too much work. I just want to get to the drink, So, first of all, I appreciate what you guys are all up to. I appreciate your cohesiveness as a group, your commitment to the ecosystem, your intellect, your smartness, the willingness to be flexible. It's so invaluable in this community as to where we're all going right now. So I just wanted to say that for everybody. And, pertaining to the conversation about providing liquidity, and the impermanent loss, etc. And I had this thought as you were sharing how complicated it can be, or maybe even simple it can be. But if you're thinking about providing liquidity, it might not be a bad idea to have accountability partners, have a little tiny group mastermind of maybe 4 or 5 people where you all talk about, like what you're doing right now, about what your choices are when you're providing liquidity. And that is something that I think, kind of will help you balance the aspect of its nature, right? And, reach out to people like Fast Abdul, who's a steadfast in the community, where they can, provide insights and listen to their programs, or, all the channels around. They're highly embedded in the community. So, and they're really out for the highest good of everybody involved. They don't want to see anybody get hurt. They want to see people gain from impermanent loss, And then, with Bill, with C3 Works, it's taken me a while to get my brain wrapped around it, but I think it's really cool what he's got going on, because in a world where initially the gains, like 300, 400, 1,000%, come when things launch, right? And the coin goes down and dumps. Bill's coin is actually gaining ground. So that's an interesting thing to look at here. And maybe it's timing. Only Bill can explain that. But I think it's really cool kind of sifting through all this, the crypto sphere, and seeing the bright light right now, which is, Bill's coin. I just, it's this is an amazing time to be in crypto right now, because we've all been submersed in the bear market, and we all have some how can I put it? We feel lighter now that things are starting to take off, and it's going to be like this. No, not financial advice, for months upon end, as was the bull market for months upon end when things were going down. It's like, what the hell? When is this thing going to go up? Well, I think we're going to see that now, having experienced a previous bull market. I think we're going to see this where months and months upon end, I could quit my job, etc. Just stay focused on what your internal goal is as a person, and get help along the way. Everybody's here in this group and in other groups, and I host a mastermind personally, a private invite only, that we talk about this kind of stuff, on a weekly basis. And we all want to see people succeed in crypto, because we're gonna succeed. I mean, we've already been through this challenge of a bear market, and the upside is unlimited potential. There, I've said what I can possibly say.
I love that comment about accountability partners, because that's how we all found each other. That's initially what we was accountability partners. And it's huge to find accountability partners. For the audience that doesn't know, if you guys haven't done so already, check out the Telegram. That's where you can find some great accountability partners right in there. But absolutely finding accountability buddies to just, make sure the moves that you're making are good, and to just, iron sharpens iron absolutely all day. So 100%, I completely agree on that aspect.
Bounce ideas off other people. That's the thing. Crypto can be so isolating. You can be here alone and not be able to talk to anybody and wonder what to get into. What are you doing here? Because it's such a bizarre concept that, even people now say, well, crypto, what are you talking about? I'm like, dude, crypto's been around for 15 years. Have you been in a vacuum for the last 15 years? It's crypto. So you got to get like-minded people in the same sphere to bounce ideas off, so you can make the right decisions. And I strongly encourage individuals to create their own separate mastermind, even if it's only, look, one person is not a mastermind. 2 people's a mastermind. So get 2 to 5 to 10 people in a little mastermind. And even if it's people you're onboarding into crypto, get them in the mastermind, because then you'll become a leader, you'll become a teacher, and then you'll start to attract other leaders and teachers in the space that can help support you. You support others, they help others come in to help support you in what you're up to.
Yeah.
Hey, quick question for Bill, if you don't mind. So, as somebody who spent a career in TradFi before making the transition over to crypto, we've seen over the past this 4-year cycle in particular, right? You've had major institutions come in, the big names that we all know, Fidelity, BlackRock. Over the next year or so, right, when we finally get to that fever pitch of the 2025 bull market, which next big player do you think comes in, makes a splash, and gives us that next tailwind? Because like you hear, Saylor over the last few days, apparently he's going to go give a keynote to Microsoft, so he might bring Microsoft in. He's in talks with the CEO of Rumble. What are the chances you think within the next year that we get somebody like Warren Buffett finally warming up the crypto and bringing like some of the cash that he's been holding on the sidelines with Berkshire Hathaway into the space, man?
Wow. Well, great question. I think the answer is over the next 1 to 2 years, it's very high that many of them will come. It doesn't matter which one. When you look at the amount of money that Wall Street in general, big institutions, how about public money like state pension funds? And I mean, I could go on and on and on. I've talked to some of these folks personally. There are incredible amounts of money. We only need a tiny bit of that. If they allocated 2% to the crypto space at large, these coins would run like crazy, right? You have to appreciate the gravity of the difference between what Wall Street runs for money, beyond Wall Street and public money, and the size of our tiny little mud puddle here. It doesn't take much. So which one of them? I have no idea who's first, but I can tell you that they have used phrases with me because in other worlds, I still have contacts with that world. Very few care to be the pioneer because in their world, they feel like they get the pioneers are the guys with the arrows in their back. And none of them want career risk of why they did something. But the phrase they use with us routinely in a different world I'm in is that they want to be a fast follow. Think about what that means. They don't want to be first, but they want to be a fast follow. Well, that's a threshold that's sort of at a tipping point right now. That means a lot of them have done a lot of due diligence. They've done things that we wouldn't see up until now as they've prepped, but they don't want to step in just yet. But as they witness things start to happen, the balance of career risk goes from why did I get involved to how is it I didn't get involved? That is a very quick shift. That's what they mean by fast follow, because they realize don't want to be first because I might lose my job over being first, but I sure don't want to be late because I might lose my job over being late. So yeah. It's the best answer I have because I don't know who. There's so many that are sitting there watching that it almost doesn't matter. It just has to start the parade. And I think that will occur in the next, certainly 2 years.
So Bill, do you think that, sorry, go ahead, Bean. Go ahead.
So what I'm hearing too is that Bill is the integral part of merging the two ecosystems of the traditional finance and the crypto world, decentralized finance hub. What do you guys think?
I think so. I think we need more folks in the industry like Bill who made the transition and who actually understand the value proposition of crypto, right? Of Bitcoin and other protocols, other L1s, other projects like in Pulse Chain, right? Because if you don't have that bridge, right? I think, me personally, I think that people in TradFi are more likely to lend an ear to folks who made a career in TradFi and who'd made a transition. So I think people like Bill are going to be the bridge, right? One of I don't know if you guys have met Zenith yet, but Zenith, when we met him, he spent majority of the time playing in TradFi before he made a transition to crypto as well. So I think absolutely. Bill, just to follow up on what you said. So are you of the opinion that we get these traditional institutions when they're entering, they're, like you said, right? They want to be a fast follow, but they're still fairly risk averse, right? Because right now we see that a lot of that money is just funneling into Bitcoin, right? Just now we're getting the Ethereum ETF inflows within like the last few months. So are you of the opinion that eventually they're going to turn from like that traditionally risk off mindset to more risk on, and so some of that money bleeds a lot further down the risk curve, like we've seen in prior bull markets?
I think that you can't quite paint them all with one wide brushstroke. So public money is going to be the slowest and most risk averse, right? I mean, that's just how it's going to be. You're not going to get the pension money to jump into Hex anytime soon. Don't count on that, right? But private family offices could be a different story altogether. Guys like Funding Jim, if you know him, and a handful of others that are in touch with some of the larger private wealth. Look, they're not risk averse. They didn't get that way because they're risk averse. They got that way because they're willing to take calculated and careful risks. Now, having succeeded the way they have, they aren't inclined to want to take those kinds of crazy risks that are heavily concentrated in areas they don't control. I mean, that's how they got there. They concentrated their risk in things they could control, but they also understand opportunity. And they are not folks who are afraid of opportunity. They'll just begin to put their toe in the water, but they do need communication bridges. And that's where I find a certain role there, because being able to bridge this world of degenerate DeFi finance stuff and all the stuff that we have fun talking about, and the world of what they live in, there's a bridge there that has to be gulfed. And they're right to say, I want nothing to do with a bunch of it. I don't, they kind of are right for what they're doing. It's not for them. It's not their bag. But on the other side, there are things that are absolutely things they should look at. I mean, I covered clients in that world that were, I understood it. And so at this point, I can think in terms of what would I bring to those former clients and present in terms of things that they rightly ought to consider, even in their world, on a risk-adjusted basis, because they know what that means, right? And what things, look, just stay away, that's not going to be for you. But more and more, there are things that are emerging. And that's why we have folks like, and I'll throw Funding Jim out there again, he's getting some traction to the best of my knowledge. I don't have any direct involvement, but I certainly am familiar with his footprint out in the space. In fact, I'd love to have a conversation. If you're listening, Funding Jim, let's talk. Because I think there's some things here that your folks will benefit from. But you got to be able to bridge the gulf of the language, because Wall Street has things we don't want in this world. That's true in our DeFi world. But Wall Street has an awful lot of hard-learned wisdom that we can't escape in this world. So we got to learn to discern the difference, not be indiscriminate.
Well said.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well said.
It's a good point. Look, the more money that comes into crypto, the better. Doesn't matter what coin it goes into. Everything trickles out, right? It goes into Bitcoin first, usually Ethereum trickles out, although this cycle's been a bit different. We did have our first pension fund, Bill, up in Michigan, actually add Ethereum to their balance sheet 2 weeks ago. I'm sure you saw that. That's a first mover, right? We haven't seen anyone else follow suit yet. But who's going to be?
But I can't speak about it yet.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're on the edge.
I've heard as well. I didn't work in traditional finance a lot. I did trade stocks. I did go to school for economics at Harvard. So that's kind of like where I got a lot of my knowledge from in the beginning. But I switched. I quickly switched to crypto, and that's been good for me. But who's the first company? Because MicroStrategy has been so successful with their Bitcoin strategy, you know that other companies are going to follow suit with Ethereum, maybe with Solana, right? And these are going to be things that's really going to change the game for a lot of these other coins, and potentially start changing the game for decentralized finance. Because if one of these big companies starts to put Ethereum on their balance sheet and starts to essentially become an Ethereum bank, like MicroStrategy is a Bitcoin bank, then that trickles down to everything that's attached to Ethereum, right? And in my opinion, that's very likely to happen. When, if, who, I don't know. But because the strategy was so successful with Bitcoin, someone has to take the risk to do it with Ethereum, in my opinion.
You know, Brendan, that's so valid. It's so powerful that you say that, because I invested in Cypherpunks. It's a stock and it's also a crypto held. They hold Solana. I did it about a year ago. It was 7 cents. And I didn't really understand why I was doing it. I just took the advice of someone that I know in my circle, and it 22x in my IRA. 22x. That's profound when IRAs are expected to get 10, 12% a year upon year, and I got 22x. And the interesting thing is that they have Solana on the books, 32,000 I think Solana roughly, and now the chart of that coin, of that stock, they've basically taken the playbook from MicroStrategies with Solana, and that chart is on a course to collide with Solana's upscale. So, that is so well said on your part. Like, how can more companies, how can more governments begin to, gently jump into these assets to help their balance sheet? And, one other thought that I had was, I was on a call about 3 years ago with Token Metrics. It's a platform that uses AI to go to tokenmetrics.com. But they were the dude who created an entire algorithm on how to alleviate the risk of currency. He would take a backpack in his country of money with him just to survive the weekend, because he didn't know the volatility of the currency throughout the weekend. So he could be spending an entire backpack in one day, or he might be spending only a fifth of a backpack, or a fraction of a backpack over a weekend, because of the volatility of the currency. In my opinion, if you integrate these assets with traditional assets on the books, it's going to alleviate that kind of volatility from volatile quote ecosystems of countries.
Yeah, great point. Especially the countries that have the most volatile ecosystems, right? They're the ones that are going to benefit the most by holding these assets on their balance sheet.
Yep. And how about from a psychological perspective? If you knew that you didn't have to bring a backpack with you and you could bring a wallet, how would that impact your thinking while you're strolling about your weekend trying to buy ice cream for your kids? So, and by the way, Brandon, I didn't know you went to Yale or Harvard. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but you know what? I didn't graduate. I just went there. I dropped out.
Hey, you got accepted, right?
I slept to the dean.
Might be better that you didn't graduate. I don't know. It might speak more highly.
Honestly, Harvard has a lot of great benefits to it, but I did not fit well in that school. I'm not going to lie.
Oh my goodness. What a non sequitur. I was like trying to think of something to say, and it totally is all gone now. But we were talking about TradFi. We were talking about bridging the gap. We're talking about how money moves in and back and forth and up and down and left and right. I actually want to I'm gonna send the spotlight over to you, Bill, and because we had hinted earlier that you have a protocol called the Actuator protocol that you're one of the co-founders of. Can you describe? So a lot of us on the panel, we know how Hex works and how it functions. Hex is essentially a certificate of deposit that exists on the blockchain. You work with in the Actuator protocol, you work with one version of the Hex staking called the HSIs or HMIs, whatever you guys want to call it. The Hex staking instance, it essentially allows people to tokenize and turn their Hex stakes into an NFT. And I want you to launch off from that point, Bill, and describe to the folks at home who don't know what actuator is, like what's the elevator pitch? What's the Barney style explanation of the actuator protocol?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Well, the Barney style would be this. The HSIs, our version of them, are identical. In fact, they are the same code with a wrapper around them of what you knew HSIs to be under icosahedron, right? So we didn't reinvent the wheel there. It's just simply a tokenized hex stake. It allows you to transfer it and do some things with it. The things we added to it enable the ability of the holder of an HSI to take some liquidity out of it. That's a key piece. You have the ability to draw some liquidity out of your hex stake. And that can be an important thing. There's times you'd like to be able to take some liquidity out of a capital asset. And a hex stake over time, as you build up intrinsic value, is a capital asset, like your house might be. Do you like the idea of being able to take out a home equity loan? We call them HELOCs, home equity line of credit, from your capital asset that you've built up in the form of a home. Sometimes that's good, right? It might smooth over some needs. It might allow you to invest in other things. Well, we just sort of redefined the term HELOC. Now it's a hex equity line of credit. Now you can use your HSI, which is a stake that's made through an HSI wrapper, and be able, when you want, as you want, for as long as you want, draw some equity in the form of actual hex, and then you can redeploy it for other hex investments or for whatever you might want to do. And if you get finished with that, you can pay it back down and take out your hex stake, and it's exactly the same as when you started. It just gives you a little more control over your capital asset that is your hex stake. And that matters because as you do that with a market-based time value of money across the whole yield curve, meaning a 2-year stake, a 5-year stake, a 10-year stake, a 12-year stake, the market says what the cost of funds are to be able to produce that liquidity. So individually, you get the benefit of being able to draw liquidity out. Corporately, meaning for the whole hex community, what we believe we're building is a native hex yield curve, market-based time value of money, which is exactly what these institutions are going to need to be able to come in and bring their large bags and feel like they have the sort of sophisticated control over risk management that they have in traditional finance. And I've said this on other streams, if large capital has no tools to manage their risk and do things like I've described, they manage their risk by reducing the allocation to the product. What we want, if we're going to establish hex as a reserve asset, is to not dissuade them from bringing allocation. We want to encourage them to bring asset allocation. Bigger, larger stakes, longer stakes. That means they need to have the kinds of tools they're used to doing, like this, to be able to manage the risk. So the individual small user elevator pitch, you can draw some money out of your hex stakes. Pretty cool, huh? Maybe you're feeling more free to apply longer and stronger hex stakes now because you have some ability to get money out if you need it.
I think there is significant value there, Bill, because we had Kareem on recently. If you guys are familiar with his story,
but you're exactly right.
He would have gotten significant value out of a protocol like this because he was, up a creek without a paddle, and he had to.
I felt so bad that we didn't have it ready at that point. When your only alternative is to destroy your capital asset, and hey, I'm going to say something. Remember, I was a day one Hexagon, have a lot of stuff. The first time I had to do an emergency end stake, and I realized what the cost of funds was me because I decided this was the right solution compared to other things. And I saw how inelegant that was and distasteful, but it was still my smartest option, everything considered. I said, there's got to be another way here, and I'm going to find it. We're going to make it. And that's
Yeah.
Yeah. Bill, how were you able to? So the thing that immediately goes off in my head is, how does the protocol enable you to draw liquidity out without getting that, like without getting the end stake penalty? Because
beautiful, because we created an intermediary fungible token called the Hex Time tokens. And the Hex Times tokens are backed 1-for-1 with Hex. That's a very different thing than other protocols. We're not dependent upon a coin with no particular known value. These HTTs are 1-for-1 backed. If you take, say, an HTT 3000 today, you want to mint HTT 3000s, you know, with the assurance of the protocol that's been financially and security audited, that this protocol is going to hand you 1 hex for every 1 HTT 3000 you have. And if you buy the HTT 3000 at a discount to hex, everything's in native hex terms, you buy it at 0.5 hex, and you know you're going to get 1 hex on day 3000, that's a mathematical certainty. You are going to double the amount you have in that interim time period. That is a hex, native hex return, like a zero coupon bond, if you're familiar with those. So it was that innovation that we recognized would bring a very aggressive and balanced two-sided market to this, which is what we think was missing with ICOSA and why its floor didn't hold, right? This is going to hold, because if I told you here right now, let's say, what is it, Agent J? Nice talking to you. If I came to you and said, here's a claim check on 100,000 hex, or pick the number, in 2 years, I'm making up the time frame. In 2 years, this claim check will get you 1-for-1 of 100,000 hex. This is 100,000 of my claim check today. How much hex would you pay for it today? Just digest that rhetorically. Well, the answer is probably not 1% of a hex, because if it is, I'm going to go over to Nate and say, Nate, what do you think? You got a better number than 1% for 2 years? That's a 100x return you're asking for, Agent J. I think Nate might do better than that. Maybe he'll go 2%. But at some point, the question comes down to, what sort of return, guaranteed by the protocol in hex terms, do you demand to wait 2 years for your hex? That's what this HTT is. And that's the same thing that an HTT 5000 is for the, that period of time, which is about 8 years, or the HTT 7000 for a 14-year. We're determining what the market says, and it's in the face of market competition. What will you pay? What discount rate is the fancy financial term for it? Are you demanding, which is what yield is in this kind of context, do you demand to wait X amount of time for your assured return in native terms? That's a yield curve.
We have a question from the audience, C3. It's actually from my brother. Mrs. Producer, would you mind pulling it up at 9:39? Let's see. If I have the option to take my money out of the hex stake, it feels like it would dilute the value of knowing I locked up my money. And also his next comment, this is first time he's heard of your protocol, C3. He's looking for an explanation. So do you have thoughts on his comment question there?
You bet. First of all, he's partially right. Anytime you're going to unlock an element of liquidity, that point is true, right? The point that we argue is that we have two blunt endpoints. The endpoint we're currently at with the Hex protocol, which served a very good purpose and still does. I'm not going to undermine that. That's not my goal. Even Richard understood this because they built in the ability to do an emergency end stake, period. They didn't have to make that at all, right? but they recognized that there was some benefit and importance to giving some people an ability to get to capital if they had to have it. The only question was the cost of the capital. How much destruction and how much cost? And so they created one that was pretty severe. And that certainly creates incentive to delay gratification. But if it's out of balance too far, the consequences, people will not commit. It's certainly big money. They say, fine, if you're going to be that blunt, I'm not going to play. And that's fine for early stages. But what we're contending and positing here is we can get a little more nuanced now as we're growing. If our goal is to become a reserve asset, if that's more than a meme, if that's actually like a goal, then capital has to be treated a little more refined than simple emergency end staking, blowing everything up and nuking it.
You got to be more flexible.
You got to be more flexible. And so the point is, yes, we unlock some with nuance, but notice that the discipline is still imposed by the market, because the market decides what the cost of capital is all the way out the curve. And you're always deciding, am I going to part with my claim check for 10%? Just like you would do with your house. If you were going to go and put your capital asset of your house up because you need some money because you're going to do something like start a business. Okay, if your home equity line of credit is 1.5%, you're going to do it all day because that's a very comfortable barrier. If your home equity line is 37%,
different story.
Never going to happen. Well,
Yep.
The market's going to sort out the reasonableness of that. But when it's market based all the way out the curve, we contend that you get the best and optimal flourishing financial system. That's why it works on Wall Street. That's why it's going to work here.
So what's the cost of capital, hypothetically, if you did want to take out an equity line of credit against your Hex? Right? Does that change, or depending on
how or I don't know if I can share it.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do I do that?
So in StreamYard, there's a little button of a screen on the bottom in the middle, right next to Leave Studio, and it has a little plus sign in it. Now, before you share your screen, make sure that you don't have any, PII or anything crazy on there. But if you click on that, it'll give you the option to bring up either a tab, to bring up a window, or to bring up your entire screen. You just select the tab that you want, if that's the option, or you can select an actual like browser window, or you can share your entire screen.
So Bill, make sure there's no TikTok videos with cats on there. That's nobody wants to see
cats. No
Oh,
cats.
come on. We love those, though.
All right. Well,
This is interesting, because one of the points that Sailor makes all the time is that the reason why we keep taking out these loans to buy Bitcoin is because the cost of capital for us is basically negligible. It's less than 1%. If somebody's going to give you billions of dollars to buy Bitcoin and then your cost of capital is 0.87%, why aren't you going to do it?
Well, that is the point. And so what we're seeking to bring, are you guys seeing some kind of screen that shows my actuator UI?
Not yet. Oh, there we go.
We are seeing it now, yes.
All right. So you're looking at the front end of the DApp. Over here, it's showing you, just focus on this area that I'm, triggering around on. There's a lot
Bill,
of good
can we
stuff.
zoom in a little bit? Are you able to zoom in by chance?
Control and then scroll the mouse.
Control.
Perfect.
That's good?
Yep.
Okay. So notice just this section that says time tokens. We have 3 farms. There's a short-term, mid-term, and long-term. Day 3000 represents this date here of 2/18/28, which is about 3.2 years from now. Right now, the HTTs are at 11% discount to Hex. There's the price that you could buy or sell them at. Remember, both sides of the market are very incentivized. The APR is 3.84. So think about this. Let's just focus on this one. Now this is in native Hex terms, forget dollars. If you're comfortable for a 3.2-year period till 2/18/28, buying a discount of 11% to Hex, so that on that maturity date, you're going to get 11.1% more, or a little bit higher actually, because the discount's 11.1. You're buying it at 0.19 when the actual hex is at 0.22 or something. Your APR is 3.84% in native hex terms. Is that a good level to be the buyer of that token? Or is that a good level to be the seller of that token, and that becomes your cost of funds? See, you're trying to weigh that up on either side of the market right now. Do you want to be the buyer or do you want to be the seller? Well, right now, the collective market has said that's the balance point. So you can do whichever one of those two you'd like, and you could go buy an HTT 3000 right now at 0.0192 when the price of a hex itself is 0.022, and then you hold it for this period of time and you get your complete hex back. And those would be the returns. So if you get that concept, then you look at the HTT 5000 and you notice that that's an 8.7 year, which is out to 33. Now the discount is 42%, which is an 8.52% APR. And you weigh that up for an 8.7 year decision. And likewise, you could go one step further and look at the HTT 7000, which is a 14.2 year. And that's a deeper discount, a lower overall APR, and you can decide what you think of that one. Now, I know a lot of wheels will start turning here. Again, this can get more sophisticated very quickly, which is what, say, larger institutions want, because this sets up notions of things like curve trades. But I don't want to blow everybody's mind at this point, right? I could take you down a lot of roads. But I'm telling you, there are people that are going to recognize what to do, and they're going to find relative value trades all over the place here, right? Because I can tell you what I would do, but I don't want to get too complicated. I just want to start with the simple answering the question. Is 3.84% attractive enough for you to buy and hold this token and know that you're going to get a 12.47 total return in hex terms just for buying and holding? Is that a good return? Or if you say that's too low, then maybe you'd want to be on the sell side, because if it's too low to buy, it ought to be attractive to sell, right? That's the whole point of a balanced market. And you can decide if you like what the market says here or here or here, and then make your choice accordingly. But here's an example of a curve trade. You could look and say, what if I do what a bank does? A bank looks to make the net interest margin between their cost of funds and the asset they invest in. Well, if the cost of funds is only 6% for a 14-year loan, maybe I take that out by selling this, by minting the HTT and selling it, taking the proceeds and buying this one, which is over 200 basis points higher of return. And, you know, what is that, 6 years shorter? So you could raise your money here and deploy your money here, increase your pickup, and get that money back in much shorter time frame. So you can begin to think either simply or a little more complex. But that's what this protocol is going to enable. From the simplest of things, I just want to buy a cheap HTT and get something that I can hold, or I want to raise some funds at the cheapest part of the curve, which at the moment might even be into here, because that's the lowest cost of funds if I had to do it. So you could choose to mint HTT 3000s and then sell them to the market at that and get paid a lot of money in effect for that part of the curve. And the curves, these down here, all of our graphics are showing you the curves. Like this one is showing you the HTT curve in blue versus the hex mining or minting or, staking curve up here. I'm going to pause because I don't want to take you down too much complexity, but there's straightforward things and there's richer things, but all of these are the sorts of tools that are going to attract larger money.
And what I'm hearing too, Bill, is that you can go from simple to sophisticated in what you've created very quickly, right? I mean, and it could be the not so advanced person getting into this to the advanced person. So you have a broad, I mean, even your charts look like that. It's like this appeals to a broad spectrum of people.
It does. Each individual simply has to act in their own best interest.
Yep.
And they go do their thing and they can figure it out and they have capabilities they didn't have before. Like, say, Kareem.
Hey, Bill, the detail in this program is fantastic. I've been looking into it for a bit now. I've listened to you on a couple other streams, and I think we really got to get you on for a deep dive. You know, we did it with liquid loans. We've done it with a bunch of other protocols on Pulse Chain, and they're actually some of our highest watched content. So people really want to learn about these programs. People really want to learn about the deep dive and all the intricate details. Unfortunately, we just don't have the time tonight, but I think we're going to I'll reach out to you this week, and well, let's set up a date to deep dive on this.
Happy to do it. Again,
Yeah, Bill, we could explore the simplest applications of this protocol to the most complex, right? I think people are gonna get a value because I mean, from a simple, right? I mean, if you give me at the HTC 5000, if you're giving me like a 40+% premium, like I'll take that, and then I'll buy Hex and I'll stake it out because my time horizon is that long anyway.
Yep.
Right.
Well, that's right. If you're inclined to do some kind of leveraging, that's what this can enable too, right? Imagine if you could place your 100,000 Hex and get your return at your 7,000 or at day 7,000. And then you could pull out 60% of the principal back and make another stake. And then get 60% of that principal out and make another stake and recursively do that times 5. Well, guess what? You get what we describe as an amplified stake. And an amplified stake under this yield curve, you have a drop down to see what the amplified return would be if you did that with a certain number of restakes. So with 1,000 Hex and 5 restakes, which you could monitor or adjust to what you want, you could see how at the day 5,000, the HTT is 8.5%. The Hex staking, normal Hex staking is 18%. And by doing amplified, you could be earning 30.6%.
Yep.
Yeah. And, you know, maybe everybody, including myself, has overlooked this, but Hex no longer is just Hex. It's everything clumped together with Hex. All the products that believe in Hex together, it's like a basket of coins around Hex. So when you invest in any of these products, you know, you're investing in Hex, and I don't know, I'm not sure what I'm trying to say here, but it's like
all
you're no
interconnected,
longer
right?
just investing in one coin. You're investing in an entire ecosystem of coins wrapped around Hex.
Yep.
Yeah, I've said it before. I'll say it again. It is a city. You are investing in the growth of a city.
Yeah.
And so, I said this yesterday with Axis because Alive, actually, there's a rebate that goes with when you burn the Axis, you get Alive. And with Alive, it's sort of the same sort of deal where you have to commit to a certain time period, right? Well, okay, so you get that Alive. And then this is where I actually sparked an idea of his where it's like, okay, so what you can do is you can take that Alive and you're able to then move it over to then staking out Hex. So that way you can get HTT and then combine those, in which then you can have a yielding farm on those two together, right? And then in making that, you now have the yield of some sort of incentive token, which then you can now go buy Hex, right? And make some more stakes and buy some more Axis and then go, burn those ones as well. And it really is. There's a lot of things you can do with it, but the whole idea of the city of Pulse Chain is very interesting because it started off as nothing more than just Hex. There is a shack out there called Hex, and Richard built it. All of a sudden, he's like, "Oh, you know what? I think I'm going to build a couple more buildings." And from there, there's been a lot of different protocols that have been like, "Hey, this shack is now getting built layers like this, and now it's becoming an entire economic center." And something like Axis and Alive then starts building sideways, right? Where it's like, this is going to help this economic center now to grow itself. And so there's a lot of things that are being built out. So this is the reason why the city right now, what you want people to do is you want people to move into your city, right? And great things are coming currently. And I mean, that's a little bit of a hint. Like I said, I talked about it yesterday on my channel, but yeah, I think we have a bright future over here in Pulse Chain.
On that note, I have to drop out, guys, because I'm going to go on board a brand new Hexagon in 3 minutes.
Perfect. Where can the folks find you, and what have you got going on in the near future, Bill?
Actuator.finance. They can also see us from there on our Telegram, which is listed on there. I'll say it wrong if I do, but if you look at actuator.finance, you'll find our Telegram. You'll find all of our details, and we answer very quickly in Telegram. If you have questions, you certainly can look at our documents. Please check out. Just do some test trials so you get comfortable with the application, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So
excellent. Thanks, well, thank you for joining us, Bill. We appreciate you being here, and we will we'll be in touch. Brendan had mentioned earlier, so we'll see you next time. Cheers.
All right. Bye-bye.
Excellent. On that note, gentlemen, we're about to start wrapping up the show. So, Mrs. Producer, I'm going to do a quick round of chat shoutouts, and then we will begin our going around the horn, talking about where the folks can find us and what we got going on in the near future. So, first off, we've got a super chat from none other than the Herc, sending us 99 ZAR. I don't know if these are Zimbabwean dollars or if these are South African dollars or whatever they are, but the Herc sent 99 of them. So, shout out to you, Herc.
South African.
Yep. Okay. South African dollars. Excellent. And,
they're essentially sent from Elon Musk to Herc to us. Thank you.
Exactly. Yep. So thank you, Elon Musk, and thank you, Herc, and also thank you, Tim Apple, because the Herc is using an iPhone right now. You can tell because it's 99.99. Androids use full round numbers. iPhones they cut off the penny. So that's a fun little fun fact for you folks at home. So
what
thank
if he's
you, Herc.
using a computer?
Oh, it's possible. It's possible if he's using a computer and he's manually adjusting the price. That's entirely what if he might be using an Apple computer? Who knows? But it's my inference that that he's using the cool kids phones and the iPhone. So shout out to Herc. Good to see you, amigo, and thank you for the super chat, and thank you for saying that it's a good stream. We like knowing that our work is effective. And so like we know that people aren't just like paying us compliments to fluff us up and make us feel good. It's good to know that we're actually out here making a difference and that all of our efforts are not in vain and they're not wasted. And like we're always happy to hear that we're making a positive difference in your guys' life. So shout out to y'all in the audience, and shout out to Herc for giving us this excellent super chat. Next up in chat shout outs, we've got Nate the Great. Lay it on thick, Frank. Yes, Frank, you are going on a roll there, my friend. I'm gonna have to re-listen to this show on the replay just to make sure that I get all of that information and all of the alpha out of your monologues over there. Those were some fantastic ones. Next up, we've got the Herc again, complimenting me on my fantastic Santa Claus hat, saying nice hat, Will. Thank you, Mr. Herc. We appreciate it, broski. I got this from the Family Dollar just down the store. So
to help keep his head warm.
Yes, I'm missing all my insulation up here, so I have to use. Oh, look at that! I've got little fuzzies already. That's one of the bad things about the Santa hats is they cover your head with fuzz. But anyways, thank you for the compliment, Herc. Glad you like the hat. Next up, we've got Smooth Brain Boomstick watching from the weeds, gents. Cheers. Glad to know that you're watching from the weeds. I presume you're out hunting, so that's good to know. Good to know, Smooth Brain with your boomstick, which you can get at Kmart or Shop S Mart. That's right.
There's no more Kmart, Will.
Yeah, it's the S Mart. It was. This is my boomstick from Army of Darkness with Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, Evil Dead.
Yeah. Because I think he got the shotgun from from S Mart, Shop S Mart, or whatever the hell it was. But anyways, we're running long, so let's wrap up the show, gentlemen. Yes. All right, we're going to start with Nate, and we're just going to go around the horn clockwise. So Nate, Josh, Brendan, Frank, Agent J, and I will finish up. Where can the folks find you, and what have you got going on in the near future, my friends?
You can find me over on Twitter. I'm always trying to give out some kind of value over there, as well as you will see me on the book club for one of my favorite books that I've ever read, which is The Sovereign Individual, and that's going to be a fantastic one. It's a long listen, that's for sure. But there are so many points that are made in that book that makes me just go, whoa. And I think the biggest shocker is when you're like, wait, when was this book written? And you look and it was like the late 90s and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. This sounds like it was written in the late 20-teens, you know? It's absolutely fantastic. So, yep, go ahead, give me a follow over there on the Twatters, though. And yeah, I'm good to go. I'm having a great night over here. So I'm just going to pass this on over to Josh. How are you doing? Where can we find you?
Yeah, so you guys can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and in the Telegram at Chocolate Taints. this weekend going up to Pennsylvania. Probably going to be spending a little bit of time in DC in December. But other than that, that's about it.
You
What
might
got,
see
Brendan?
Charles there in DC, Josh. He's
We'll
gonna
see.
he said he's gonna be in the DC area for the foreseeable future. So might meet him there.
We'll see. Yes, sir. Brendan, what are you up to?
Not too much, man. Just wearing my fancy clothing today, a little bit. Nothing too crazy. But let's see. It's Wednesday, and I'm hoping that Bitcoin continues to climb. Hoping that we continue to see green candles in Pulse Chain ecosystem, and yeah, man, lots of good things going on. Excited. Don't have a lot to share today, but keep watching out, and we'll be back here in the near future. And by the way, if anyone's ever in Miami, you have to hit me up because I know one or two people, and I can show you around to a good time.
Can confirm. Excellent.
Okay, I'm heading there right now.
A good decision, Nate. You won't regret it. Mr. Frank.
And wait. Can I add one more? Can I add one more thing? And
Yes.
someone, Paul Sachs asked, "Hey, we're gonna have a Degen Roundtable meetup next fall." And yes, sir, there's a very, very good, 100% chance that that's gonna happen. So, see you there.
Excellent.
You guys should just do something at the 369 conference in March. If you're all going to be there, just do some type of meetup there. Axis does it. Different groups do it there. It might be an easy way to bring your followers to not only your platform, but to the Pulse Chain conference.
Yeah, you know what, Frank? You know what's interesting? Our discount code Degen got the most signups of any discount code for the Pulse Chain 369 conference. I just want to throw that out there. Congrats to the Degen and the Degen community. Thank you all for
a sign from the universe. So it is, and so be it.
Yes, most certainly. Mr. Frank, where can the folks find you, and what have you got going on in the near future, my friend?
At Polancic Frank on Twitter, Frank Conversations on YouTube, and I just keep plugging along. I do my mastermind group again by invitation only, and I just what do I have going on? Just now is not a time to take your foot off the pedal in crypto. Now is the time to keep your foot on the gas in crypto, and that's what I'm doing. Even tonight, I was just ready to, chill out and hang out. And I was actually watching there's a really great thing on PBS about Leonardo da Vinci. Actually, Nate commented on that. And I was going to turn it on, but I was like, nope, I got to get on here. I got to double down and make sure that I'm hanging out with you guys, thinking crypto, talking about crypto, watching my wallet go up. Every action you take right now in crypto, I just look at it like it's 100-fold, a minimum. And if you think like that, even if it's $100, you got to think like you're making a $10,000 move right now. So no action goes without huge upside, especially right now. So that's what I got going on. Just spreading the word of crypto, making sure people stay engaged and don't check out.
Great point.
Excellent. Agent Jay, where can the folks find you, and what have you got going on in the near future?
What have we got going on in the near future? We've got our show on Friday book club, like the gentleman said, Sovereign Individual. We have our flagship show on Sunday, which is most likely going to be a weekly news roundup of everything that happened throughout the week. And we might have another emergency stream in the Telegram. Who knows? If significant news comes out across our desks, we'll be the first to cover it, and our community will be the first to receive it. As always, thank you for joining us on this wonderful Wednesday evening. We know that time is your most valuable asset, so we do appreciate that you spend some of that time here with us. You can find me on Instagram at agent_J Schroth, on X at _P90Hex. Like the damn video, comment, subscribe, scan the QR code, jump into the Telegram if you want the alpha first and foremost. Holla back at your boys. If anybody's been in YouTube fitness for a long time, you know exactly how I was trying to emulate there. So we'll see if anybody got the reference. Will, take us out, my friend.
I like it. Excellent, excellent. All right, folks. For those of you who want to go find me, the best place that you can find me is in the Degen Roundtable Telegram, and then after that is at my my Meetup Telegram for Hexkins. It is bit.ly/hex_meetup, or you could do t.me/hex_meetup. The bit.ly takes you to the best message that's in that Telegram, though, the start here message. If you guys want to find any of my socials, you can find them all linked at will.pls.fyi. That is my Pulse Chain Degen URL, my public wallet, whatever you want to call it. So that's where a lot of my stuff can be found. And it's got my Twitter, my Facebook, my Instagram. Everything's linked from there. So have at it. Go have fun. Other than that, though, like Mrs. Producer is saying, scan that QR code, get on into the Degen Roundtable Telegram. You guys will not regret it. We talk about lots of excellent and awesome things. Let's see. We already talked about book club. We are covering 2 days from now on Friday. Again, it is The Sovereign Individual. Zenith will be hosting that one, and it's going to be a good time. That book is 19 hours long on Audible. So if you've not already started it, you know, on 1x speed, you might consider doing that tomorrow. So that's what's going on with book club. And we've got our Sunday show, as always. Every single show for the Degen Roundtable, you guys can find us Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. The Degen Roundtable goes live, where we cover guests, we cover books, and we cover news. Other than that, though, that is everything that we've got for. That's everything that we got for the show. I'm going to remind you guys one final time that nothing that we say on this show is financial advice, and we're all just a bunch of silly gooses sharing our feelings on the internet. And we love and appreciate you all for hanging out with us. And on that note, it's time to read the end of show copywriting. So I want to thank you all for spending your valuable time with us here on the Degen Roundtable. As Agent Jay literally just said not but a moment ago, we know that time is your most valuable asset, and we appreciate you investing it right here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Will Stevenson, but more importantly, you have been watching the Degen Roundtable. Mrs. Producer, go ahead and get that trigger finger ready, because it's time to remind all the folks at home to remember to Degen responsibly.